okay. These are just some general things I'm going to go through. So, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. That kind of goes into what I said the other day, which is if you don't change anything, if you leave this class without implementing something or doing something uncomfortable, you're probably going to get what you always got. Your average ticket's probably going to be the same. Your closing rate's going to be the same. Right? You got to change something. You got to do something different. All right? Your first goal of every service call is for the customer to use you a second time. I'll say it again. Your first goal of every service call is for the customer to use you a second time. If you can achieve that, my friend, you will be amazingly successful. One of the biggest things I tell my technicians is get out of your own way. We always look at competitors driving around on the street, other electrical companies driving around. We might even look at fellow technicians that work at our company. They get the better calls, right? I know they always get the better calls. The dispatcher likes them, right? The boss likes them. He's the boss's son. He's the boss's kid. He's the manager's son, whatever. They get all the good calls. Do you know who the biggest competitor is in your business? You. Yep. You are your own worst enemy usually because you limit yourself, and a lot of times you don't want to get uncomfortable. We rush jobs. We don't go on time. If we fix ourselves and just focus on us, sky is the limit after that. Like truly the limit. Customers need to like and trust you. That's the thing I forgot about DISC profiling. I'll touch on that now. D's and C's need to trust you, but they don't need to like you. Okay? My D's and C's in the room. If you trust somebody but you don't like them, will you buy from them if they have what you want? You will. S's and I's, no way in hell. If an S or an I doesn't like you, they will not buy from you. Even if you're the last person that has their product, they will not buy from you. They have to like you. My wife is an I. If she doesn't like you, she might trust that you're good at your job, but if she doesn't like you, she will not buy from you. However, if she does like you and she does trust you, she'll buy anything you have to freaking offer. I know that. Okay. All right. That's one point I forgot to bring up. So our biggest job is they have to like us, trust us, and we got to become their friend. We're literally going to a job interview 3 or 4 times a day. We're going to a job interview. I mean, that's really what we're doing. And a lot of times we just think we're going to a service call. We're really going to a job interview. We're either going to get hired or we're going to get fired. And I know that hurts because when you only collect $79, you got fired. They didn't want you to do it. And you can think of the smoke screens. I know. Well, they had to talk to their spouse, so. No, they didn't. And if they did, we'll find out how to get past that. Okay. Your mindset in your head. I call it a checkup from the neck up. You got to get your head straight. All right? I'll just touch on this. I was telling some people in the back, my wife runs a peer support company which really advocate on mental health. So I've learned a few things from her along the way. One of the biggest things I learned is 1 out of 5 people suffer from a mental illness. 1 out of 5. That's a lot of people. That's 1 out of 5 customers you go to. That's 1 out of 5 people that work in your business. That's 1 out of 5 people, friends of yours. 1 out of 5. So a lot of times when we go to a customer's house and they flip out or they're rude to us or whatever, we don't know what they're battling. They could be the 1 of 5. They might be severely depressed, high anxiety, bipolar, suicidal idealization. All these things can happen. We don't know what they're going through. But I do know that 1 out of 5 is going through it. And I know that 1 out of 5 in this room have it, whether they know it or not. So, you could be the one. And all I'm saying is, there's ways to figure that stuff out. There are online tests you can take to see if you have any of these things. I've had technicians suffer with anxiety for 5 to 10 years. They get on some medication, they get some help, and they're totally different people. They're better husbands, they're better fathers, they're better professionals, everything. It literally changes their life. So, if you're suffering from something, reach out and get some help. Again, nobody wins. Your family doesn't win, your company doesn't win, your customers don't win, you don't win if you're suffering in silence. And men are the number one group that suffer the worst because we don't like to ask for help. We don't want to look weak. But is it really worth going through your life for 5, 10, or longer years dealing with it? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All right. A way to know if you're suffering about something is if it affects 2 or more places in your life for 2 weeks or longer, you should start looking for help. Okay? So maybe you notice that you're getting to work really, really late and you feel depressed inside and it goes on for 2 weeks and it's affecting 2 places of your life. So maybe it's affecting work, maybe it's affecting home life, whatever. That's a good gauge to know if you need to start looking for help or not, okay? Is anybody bold enough to say that they're on some type of anxiety medication or something like that? We got 1, 2, 3. When you guys got on that, did it change your life? Yeah, absolutely. Change your life, all right? You're not alone. We just had 3, 4 people raise their hands, all right? If you're afraid of asking for help, I will give you permission today to do it. All right? I'm giving you permission to ask for help. If you need it, I just gave it to you. So please do it. There's free resources, usually your health insurance company. You can call the back. A lot of times on your health insurance card, there's a phone number on there. Sometimes they have programs that are free or discounted, or they can recommend programs to you. Friends, family, reach out if you have an HR person or your boss, your manager, they might know somebody. So, mental illness is just like a physical illness. It doesn't go away and it gets worse. So it's like different stages. There's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. You have stage 4 cancer, it's hard to come back from that. You have stage 2 cancer, you have a shot. Same thing. We want to catch your mental illness in stage 1 or 2, we try not to get you to 3 or 4. All right? Because once you're in 3 or 4, 4 is almost paralyzing. That's when you can't leave the house almost, type of stuff. All right? So it probably won't get better on its own. It's just like any other illness. You gotta get help. All right? Okay. Off the mental illness stuff, I wanted to touch on that. Now I'll keep moving here. Sometimes when we do a checkup from the neck up, things affect us when we leave our home for the day. Let's say we got an argument with our spouse or our kids, or you found out somebody's sick in your family, or you're dealing with aging parents, or something along those things, or your car broke down, or money's tight at your house, I don't know, whatever. All these things can affect us, so somehow we have to figure out how to block that out of our head. Because I know that if I walk into a home and I'm not on my game, customers can sense it so quick. And you might even notice, you guys ever leave a house where everything just clicked? Like you went in there, customer loved you, you did a great job, they walked you to the door, handed you a check, and you're smiling and everything's great, it's a huge sale. And you're like, man, if every job just went like that one, right? It's the best feeling ever, all right? But probably what it was is you came to that house on your A game. You probably weren't worried about all kinds of other stuff going through your head before you got there. It was probably a good day before you got there. All right? And that's what we have to do. We have to change it. We have to try to block. And I know it's hard to block that stuff out, guys. I get it. Like, it's hard. Life's hard. Stuff happens. But the more we can block out, the better. Because when you're in the house, you can't fix that stuff anyway. Right? Like, what are you going to do about it while you're in the house? Also, we got block out the bad, but we also have blocking out the good. Sometimes the good can affect us. Like, I'm going on a hunting trip, or I'm going to Mexico next week, or I'm going to my kid's baseball game. Sometimes what happens is that we actually get excited about what we're doing after work, and so we start rushing through calls. And you know you've all done it. Let's say it's you and your wife's anniversary, and you never told the office. You didn't tell anybody, but you know if your ass isn't home at a certain time, that anniversary night's not going to go very well. So what do? You rush through your calls because you're so scared of working late. And you don't dare call the office and ask them to get off early because you didn't ask for it, and you know what they're going to probably say is we have a full schedule. So, I'm not going to speak for your owners or managers, but what I do at my company, I'll give them a couple times a year. I would rather have you run 2 good calls than rush through three calls. Right? I'd rather have you run 2 good calls than blow 3 calls. So, at my company, if you say, hey, but you got to give a heads up, like 2 weeks heads up, your anniversary comes every year, same day, right? You usually know you're going on a trip more than 2 weeks before you go. You know these things. So just give a heads up to your office. Hey, if there's any way you can get me off, or if I can not work at 2 to 5, 3 weeks from now, Friday, it would be great. We gladly do that. Because again, I don't want you to blow through 3 calls to get off early. All right? So, but we also have to block that out. Because even if we run those 2 calls, we're still thinking about how much fun we're going to have, and I can't wait for the day to be over, and thank God it's Friday, and all these things. You're not thinking about the job, you're not thinking about the customer, and that can also affect you. So we have to block out the good and bad. We have to be there in the present. All right? Right now. Where are we now? What are we doing now? All right? Work with your dispatchers, not against them. That's what I was saying. You're on the same team. And I'll bet if there are times that you'll pick up an extra call, they'll let you get off a little early those times you want to get off early. I don't know the size of everybody's business in here, but at my company, I know this dispatch favor crap goes on all the time. Some technicians are really, really good at smooth talking these dispatchers, but what usually happens is when the dispatcher's in a pinch, that technician steps up and helps, and then vice versa. When that technician wants to get off early for a baseball game or whatever it is, magically that dispatcher rearranges the board to help that person. It's a give and take relationship, all right? Work with them. You're on the same team. I know technicians think, oh, they give all the good jobs to that guy, and they always pick me to run the late calls, and I know that stuff goes on in our head. But what it really comes down to is these dispatchers are just trying to get the board cleared for the day. And they don't even usually have enough time to think about all the things you think they're thinking of. The dispatcher position is one of the most difficult positions in the company. Those people don't get near enough credit for what they do. They're the one person between all the technicians and all the customers. They're the one person in between. Every day they got to go to work knowing they're pissing somebody off. They do, every day. They're either going to upset a technician or they're going to upset a homeowner almost every single day. How great would it be for you to wake up in the morning, know you're going to upset somebody every day? That's what they do. I mean, every day. At my company, either a technician's working late and they're going to be upset, or we're not going to get to a house and they're going to get yelled at by a homeowner. It's a hard job. You can help them. You can. Give them a heads up when you want to get off early. But you got to give them notice. Can't be that day. All right? Oh, by the way, I have a dentist appointment at 2 o'clock. No, you guys can't do that. Like, that's not that. You're just making their job 3 times harder. Now they have to piss off a customer. All right? Okay, where am I at here? Surround yourself with positive people. My chair. Do we want to break? Should we break? Or not yet? Okay. Is there a spare chair? There we go. All right. Surround yourself with positive people. Is it easier to lift me up on this chair or to pull me down? If I stand on this chair, how hard is it to pull me off? Very easy to pull me off. If you had to lift me up by my armpits and set me up here, I'm 210 pounds, would that be difficult? Yes. So is it easier to pull somebody down or to lift them up? It's easier to pull somebody down. Here's the thing, guys. You all have these group text messages, and don't tell me you don't. That the owners and the managers aren't part of that group, are they? And you guys talk amongst yourselves about good and bad. Sometimes it's job related, but I have seen these threads before. And here's how it goes. Yeah, I got to run another call tonight. I don't know why they make me run the calls every night. And then another guy will jump in. Yeah, it's bullshit, man. Like, this is crazy. Why do we got to keep doing this all the time? And another guy jumps in. You know, I heard over at Bob's Electric, they don't do after-hour calls. Right? You're literally pulling everybody off their chair. Even a guy who's in a good mood, you just put him in a bad mood because of your text messages. Let me ask you something. By complaining on a text message group, does anything change by doing that? Nothing changes. You're just pulling each other off your chairs. That's all you're doing. You're literally helping each other ruin each other's day. If you're upset about working late, talking to your fellow technicians isn't going to fix it. What will? Talking to your manager or your owner. Bitching goes up, not down. Complain to them. Don't complain to people at your level. They can't fix it. And I know all you want is reassurance, right? You just want to be heard. I get it. And you want to be validated. But just know what you're doing by sending out that message because you want to be validated and you're pulling people off their chair. And is that fair to them? Is it fair to ruin their day or think less of the company that they might like working at? No. It doesn't help anybody or anything. You're literally pulling them off their chair. But inevitably, these messages will go through, and you have the power to change it. Meaning, some guy on there, I got to work late again. I don't know why I always have to work late. You can pipe up and be like, yeah, I know it's hard to have to work late, man, but just think, like you get to help somebody, or you get to have extra money, or whatever. Like, turn it into something positive. Now you're not pulling that guy. You're literally the guy who sent the message. You're lifting him up and putting him up on the chair. And you're making everybody else in the group more positive. But again, it's harder. It's harder to lift somebody up than to pull them down. I know it's harder. And it's uncomfortable sending those messages, but what's on the other side of uncomfortable? Not just for you, but for them too. I'm telling you, one of the worst things to kill morale in your company is those group text messages. Because what happens? You send out those messages, you pull people off their chair, their sales go down, the company's sales go down, morale goes down. Positivity builds on positivity, but negativity also builds on negativity. Now everybody's upset Because they're upset, they're not selling as much. Because they're not selling as much, they're not getting paid as much. Because they're not getting paid as much, they're more upset. You see how it goes? It's a cycle. Be the one to break the cycle. Take it to a positive level, because it only helps. All right? Always tell yourself, I'm going to give this customer the best service experience they ever had. On your way to the job, think, I'm going to give this customer the best service they've ever had. I had a technician once who, he was probably an average technician. I mean, he didn't sell crazy. He wasn't like the most knowledgeable technician. But somehow I had to help him get his van to go get an oil change or something. I hopped in his passenger seat. He had taken a label maker, and he wrote, give every customer the best experience, and he had that on his dash in his truck. And I was really impressed when I seen that. I'm like, that's awesome that you did that. He's like, yeah, I just need a reminder every day. Like, that's freaking awesome. And the guy was very successful. Customers loved him. They really did. He actually went on to start his own company. He's doing very well. But, you need that reminder. Okay. So, expectations can be met, expectations cannot be met, or expectations can be exceeded. When you go to a customer's house, do they generally think you're going to do whatever they want you to do when they get there, whether it's install something or fix something? They generally think that's going to happen, right? Do they think you're going to, are they hoping you're going to talk clearly? Are they hoping you're not on drugs? Are they hoping you're background checked? Are they hoping you're professional? These are all expectations they already have when we get to the house. Now, they don't always get met, but these are always expectations they have when we get to the house. So sometimes we think we're so great because we're background checked, we're drug tested, we're professional, we wear the uniforms and all these things. But the fact of the matter is, those are really just the expectations they're expecting when you get there. You really haven't gone over and above anything yet. So we have to get more creative. How are we going to be over and above? How are we going to be better than their expectations? Because that's what a true good service experience is. It's going over and above. Think of the last time you went somewhere and they went over above, either a service to your house or you went to a restaurant, something like that. It sticks out into your minds. Does anybody have an example of something you just had maybe?
Well, sometimes we know it's not electrical related and we notice like maybe the door handle's loose and I'm like, hey, I can fix that for you real quick,
That's over and above. They weren't expecting that, see? They were expecting you showing up in that uniform, doing their electrical work, but they didn't expect that. And I'll tell you that customer might not remember your name, your company's name, what you did, but they'll remember the guy who came over and fixed the door handle, the electrician that fixed the door handle. They'll remember that. I had a closet door that came off the hinges, and I was getting my carpet redone anyway, so I'm like, I'll just put it back on, when the carpet's done. I come back, the carpet guy put the door back on for me. I'll never forget, that was like 10 years ago that happened, but I was so excited that I didn't have to deal with it. He went over and above. He did something that I wasn't expecting. We can purposely do things. So kind of a little trick that I was taught was purposely using the customer's garbage can and then purposely taking the bag out and asking where they can take it outside. He took the garbage out for him. He's like, I accidentally used your garbage. Where can I bring this bag to? And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. Nobody likes doing that, right? I had a customer once that they had a bunch of salt by their softener, heavy bags of salt. She was a single lady. I went and I filled up I just dumped them all in her water softener. Now, I told her, because I want to get credit for it, right? So I said, oh, hey, by the way, just so you know, I dumped that salt in your softener. I seen it sitting there, and it looked a little low. She was so thankful. And what she told me is she'd always have to ask her son to drive over to do it, and it was hard to get him to come over to do it. Now she didn't have to do that. And just little things. Like, these aren't big things. They're just little things. Those are expectations that have been exceeded. All right? Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Always think in your head, well, let me ask you guys a question. Is there a competitor in your area that you know does crappy work? Does everybody know it? Can you picture that company in your head? Always think in your mind, if they don't buy from me, they're going to buy from them. Maybe that'll help change your mindset. And we're going to get into objection handling later, but this is usually how most technicians objection handle. So which option would you like to go with? Yeah, I think we're going to think about it. I'll have to talk to my husband when he gets home. Oh, okay, great. Well, give us a call and let me know. And you're out the door. That's most technicians' objection handling skills right there. But if you're sitting in that chair and you truly think they might call that competitor in your area that does crappy work, if that's what gets you to sit there a little bit longer and just ask that three-letter word, why don't you want to go ahead with this today? That's sometimes just enough objection handling. All you need is just not to get up off the chair the second they say something and just ask, Mrs. Jones, I got to ask, why don't you want to go ahead with this today? It's not a mean question. You can say it very nicely. Even you high S's, it's okay. They won't get mad. I know you're worried about them yelling at you, but they won't. Most of them. You might get some. All right? But asking the question why. But that might get there. Maybe the thought in your mind knowing that they're going to call that crappy company and they're going to get crappy service, crappy products, bad technicians, whatever, all the things you know about that company, that's who's going to do this work. Maybe that inside of you, especially for US's, caring about that other person not getting ripped off, maybe that'll get you to stay and say, why don't you want to go ahead with this today, Mr. Jones? I don't understand. Is there something I've done wrong? Would you like me to get another technician out here? I love the humble close. So always think in your mind, they're going to call that other company if they don't hire you. Maybe that'll get you to fight a little bit with that customer, to keep that customer, right? Remember your why in your head and repeat it. Why are you doing this? Don't keep it a secret, all right? All right, let's go ahead and break for 10 minutes, Wes.